Hari Om, as I think, a book reading, Chapter 20, Lord of the Heart. Param Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda ji writes, to listen to philosophy is a jar, and when intellectually one comes to grasp its significance, it can almost give a thrill to the sincere student. But alas, however much we may listen to or remember the words and repeat them, or even come to give brilliant discourses upon the philosophical contents of the scriptures, the individual personality of the student cannot experience any unfoldment of its latent beauty unless he is able to train himself and give to live the spiritual values of life. In fact, compared with the head, the heart seems to be more impregnable. We can push in detail ideals and new visions through the skull and retain them in our intellect. But very rarely can we persuade our heart to change its rhythm and sing the new song of divine peace and perfection. And until this is achieved, the promised goal remains only a dream, the path of confusing mystery, and the individual life a complete confusion. Even the technique of training the heart to step truly to the new beats of the educated intellect is not, in fact, very difficult. Meditating upon the ideal and worship of the idol that represents the ideal are the paths that have been uniformly insisted upon, perhaps with varying emphasis, in almost all religions of the world. But here, a true seeker finds many practical difficulties. His mind refuses to stay at the altar of the idol. His concentration gets blasted. It wanders into 1,000 purposeless objects. The student at this juncture is in utter despair leaves his practices. The mind can stay only on an object where it has discovered for itself a source of happiness and love. When his mind wanders, a true seeker of Vedanta need not despair, since the infinite, the Lord, is not exclusive of the world of objects. Wherever the mind runs, it can only run into things and beings that exist. If not in the outer world, at least in the seeker's own mind, this existence is the infinite reality. Somewhere in the middle of the last century in North India, there was a very rich queen who poured all her love upon her pet dog. A great artist of the north was commissioned to paint her portrait. The painter carefully finished it as a masterpiece, and on an appointed day, the queen visited the painter's studio to have a look at the piece. It was a great day for the state, in short, it was to them a miniature art exhibition. The appointed hour came, the queen arrived, she was received and conducted to the hall where the picture was kept in a conspicuous place, with lights so arranged as to play upon it with maximum effect. The great artist was at the hour of his success. Everybody in the audience appreciated the work. The queen approached the canvas and gazing at the picture called out, Tommy, Tommy, who is that? To her pet dog. The dog gazed at the canvas. The smell of the paint was not very attractive, and therefore it walked away. The old queen was angry and immediately turned her face away and walked out of the studio hall. The artist was broken, desperate. In a royal voice, the queen thundered, Even my Tommy cannot recognize me in it. This cannot be then like me. This is not true painting. Everybody was aghast, but the young artist had enough mental courage and a quick voice. He bowed low to the queen and requested her royal permission to bring the picture retouched the following day to the palace. The following day, the painter took the canvas to the palace. The queen reached with her dog at her heels, and the moment the dog reached the canvas, it jumped forward and started licking the face of the picture. The queen was happy and the painter was rewarded amply. After a couple of days, the minister, who was very curious, wanted to know what was the charm that the artist did on the canvas to attract the dog with such a mad frenzy of devotion and evident love. The artist said, Dogs can never understand art. Therefore, I smeared the face of the painted picture with a piece of fish. The great rishis of the past knew that the formless infinite is too difficult for an average mind to focus itself upon, and therefore they gave a coating of sensuality around it so that the mind gets evidently attracted towards the great divine principle. To recognize one's beloved Lord of the heart in all names and forms of the world is the easiest method of making the mind fix all its attention upon truth. Let the mind wander during the meditation. Stop despairing. Where it wanders, there also you recognize the Lord's manifestation. Chapter 21. The quality of sadhana. As a measure of prosperity and success, the modern world generally accepts qualitative calculations, quantitative calculations. How much do you earn? How much do you save, produce, sell, acquire, and so on? Success depends on how much or how many or how often. This habitual mental measure of success and achievements in the outside world is unquestioningly accepted by spiritual seekers in estimating their own inner achievements. Unconsciously, they come to congratulate themselves in the quantity of what they consider as their glorious sadhana. But alas, in terms of spiritual progress made, they prove to be very false indicators. Such a disappointed seeker soon becomes a champion and preacher of disbelief in religion. In the realm of culture, quantitative measurements can also be used, no doubt. but at best it can be used only to endorse the success recognized through a qualitative self analysis. It is not how much one reads, how much one understands, reflects on, meditates upon, that assures success. It is the qualitative intensity, sincerity, devotion, understanding, and enthusiasm of the heart with which one does the sadhana that will determine the true heights to which the student can rise in his self mastery. As we said earlier, this is true not only in the spiritual field but equally so in all measures of cultural life and moral values lived by the people. Here, the quality of their actions is that which judges their cultural beauty. And since a certain minimum cultural polish is unavoidable even to make a nation of a people, the quality of discipline in actions, feelings, and thoughts is unavoidable even to raise the material welfare of a community. I have at this moment in front of me three letters from three different sincere seekers who are chronic sufferers from lack of progress. From their diaries, it is clear that if quantity alone is demanded in sadhana, these three youngsters have nothing more to do, and yet their experience is that they find themselves exactly where they were before. Some 3 years ago, indeed, it is a painful disappointment. The cure for them is easy to prescribe but perhaps a little difficult to procure. What they need is a more sharpened tempo in their spiritual seeking, a quickening of perception and alertness of the soul, a warmer urgency in their embrace of the goal. One by one, these by themselves cannot be developed, yet they are found to be already in us when our bosom gains deeper harmony within as a result of two processes, the negative one of detaching itself from all dissipating urges vairagya, and the positive one of gaining a clear picture of the all satisfying goal and a straight path to it, viveka. Once these two qualities are cultivated carefully and developed fully, the detachment from the false and discriminative appreciation of the real, the rest of the pilgrimage becomes pleasant and sure, but in no way easy. Rubbing the palms, clenching the teeth, and placing one limb over another forcibly curb the wandering mind and drive it towards the goal, advises the Upanishad. In the last analysis, self unfoldment must come to express itself in our own heart. So long as it is loaded with its own baser urges, motives, plans, and schemes, the dark self shackled heart can no more take off from its fields of sorrows and restlessness into the brilliant cloudless skies of spiritual freedom and cultural ease. Break the shackles, make the vehicle lighter, warm up the engines of meditation through kirtana and japa. Know the route from the study of the scriptures and take off. The early bumps in meditation are unavoidable. As it gathers speed, the runaway slips by, and the individuality can rise up from the body concept into sublime experiences. At first, it must wing along the lower heights of feelings, then the meditator climbs into the cloudy altitudes of intelligent ideas, and soon it can soar high into the world of cloudless poise, sublime beauty, and brilliant self mastery. Moral and spiritual joys and balance in ordinary life can come only to those who can thus explore and return from these rejuvenating secret realms within. Quantitative calculations will give only false hopes to a spiritual seeker. Try to improve the brilliance, depth, and joy of sadhana. May your eyes be on the quality of your life in all contacts with the world, in all inner feelings and thoughts. Let there be a constant beauty and peace, serenity and calmness, love and forgiveness. When passions and lusts rise up, let us not fall an easy prey to them. Crush them down by discrimination and detachment. Success is sure to the sincere and the sinless. Chapter 22, Education and Religion. Responsibility demands character. The greatest enemy of independence is lack of character. A characterless community can never progress. Its growth gets stultified. Education in a country must help to rebuild the character of its people. It must re encourage the individual's full growth and expressions in life. All tendency techniques by which an individual's full swabhava can be brought out to its best polish and brilliance are those that constitute the most vital and vigorous part of any religion. The state needs the mystic and the poet, the musician and the artist, no less than the scientist and the businessman, the teacher and the soldier. Be he a mystic or a soldier, one must have character, or else he is not a blessing to the state. He will prove himself to be only an ulcer on the body politic. When you scientifically view character building in its slow and steady construction, it can be seen to fall into various stages: doing, feeling, knowing, and becoming. External disciplines in our movements and contacts with the world of objects around the civic laws and the ordinary rules of conduct bring about a rhythm in our doings. Our physical movements and personal relationships with other physical bodies, both things and beings, are harmonized thereby to create a happy society or state. In the second stage, the individual's emotional life is so educated in cherishing love, kindness, and tolerance towards others around that he develops an emotional balance in himself and creates a sort of collective harmony around him. One maladjusted emotional creature can raise a storm around all around him. Unfortunately, we have not yet come to recognize such men of false feelings as criminals who cause the breakup of the social security. Jealousy, passions, insolence, arrogance are some of the types of feelings which are detrimental to the mental harmony in the society. In the third stage, once intellectual equanimity is developed and maintained, without which right character building is impossible. Discipline at the level of thinking is the goal to be achieved by every national educational scheme. It is not a mere intellect trained by some propaganda stuff that can inspire the thought life and bring out from the society great thinkers and genuine scientists. Creative thinking cannot be cultivated in intellects that are regimented by propaganda stuff. Thinking can be nurtured and nourished only in an atmosphere of freedom, bathed in the warmth and fragrance of some ennobling ideal or goal. If the nation is given a goal that can inspire the national genius of the country, at once there is felt an all-round electrifying influence under which we shall find a mighty flare-up of constructive doings, of progressive feelings, and of creative thinking from the most unexpected corners. Religion, when rightly viewed and properly interpreted, seems to provide a scheme to regulate the physical doing, the mental feeling, and the intellectual thinking of all people who have come to follow faithfully its divine injunctions, which are all so scientifically described and explained in the philosophy that supports religion. Any educational system, when not founded upon the proven philosophical truths and religious techniques, could perhaps give the student only some facts and data and not the polish of culture, the nobility of heart, the alertness of intelligence we expect out of the truly educated. Religion does not stop with the cultivation of character and discipline in the individual, but indicates a greater height to which surely education as such does not claim ever to live. Religion is not satisfied by merely creating these disciplines and polishes in the vehicles of life, body, mind, and intellect, but wants to accomplish a becoming. The individual gets so established in his greater vision of life, in his deeper understanding of existence, in the wider implication of the worldly strife that thereafter he can never more be tempted to take any false step or come to compromise what he himself has become the perfect. An educational system that at least moves in this direction alone can rear up a society that shall learn to live in peace and security, in the joys shared, in the sorrows borne, in the threats faced, ever united, diligent, and courageous. Religion seems to be the answer for the age and its painful disease. Unfortunately, no doctor can treat this disease by any oral treatment. Each individual member constituting the community must himself come to understand, feel, and act the exalted tenets of religion. In this, the society and the state can certainly provide an environment and an inspiration. Politicians and leaders, economists and scientists must necessarily fail in providing this right inspiration. They can never be the right custodians of true education from time immemorial. We have seen that education was always imparted by religious masters under the shadows of their temples. To the growing mind, the environments have much to contribute and the peaceful serenity of such institutions that stand around such vivid, perceptible symbols of the goal must have a salutary influence in toning down the wilder nature in both the teacher and the taught. Even in our own times, in our country, we find in the missionary colleges and schools with an attached chapel or shrine, wherein the majority of teachers are trained priests. The students are under a distinct influence of moral beauty. In the handful of schools, colleges, hostels, and homes conducted by the Sri Ramakrishna Mission, we notice a certain mental climate so ennobling and beautiful, and this is reflected in the personal life of those students. Shantiniketan, Arvindo Ashram, Banaras Hindu University are some of the examples where we distinctly recognize the difference between the students that come under the influence of the masters directly and those who now come out from the same institutions when the inspiring teachers are no more. I am quoting these examples only to support the thesis that if our country has even a vague hope of discovering our national discipline and character, at least at a reasonable distant future, the educationists of our country will do well, appreciate the cultures of the world, do well to remember these facts that are so obvious to all those who would care to look around. Education, science, religion, and philosophy is but a technical training that may bring out trained hands, hearts, and heads, but not educated men, who alone can count in the rediscovery of a nation. The present generation may not accept easily the above thesis because it is an eternal law that nobody can appreciate readily what he himself never had. Chapter 23, Training Cultural Ambassadors. Identical hearts alone can feel the harmony of any resonating thrill. Between dissimilar hearts, strife and friction alone are possible. We react to any situation only with our existing mind, and our responses will depend upon the type of mind we possess at that moment. A leprous inner personality can only spoil the beauty of the world outside. A painter alone can truly and profitably educate himself to be a better painter by a close study of great paintings. One who is himself a fairly good musician alone can improve by carefully listening to great masters at work. A doctor visiting a technological institute and a mission of engineers strutting about in a modern, well equipped operation theatre would be a profitless endeavor to themselves and most probably will disturb the institutions by their ignorance, stupidity, and confusion. If the student does not have the spiritual inclination, he cannot benefit by a mere vision to an ashram, nor can he really profit by attending a spiritual discourse. Similar vasanas alone can get betrothed to each other. Unless the youth of a country is trained to live the culture of the country vitally, they will never be able to appreciate the cultures of the world, especially in these days when almost every educated man has become a world trotter. It is necessary that everyone has a certain amount of his own cultural beauty within himself so that he may absorb the best from around him. A dry siphon cannot draw or convey a heart that is dry of any of the higher values, cannot benefit in the presence of or in its contacts with the various civilizations of the world and the cultural beauty in the different continents. The developed nations in the world have all cultivated consciously and often unconsciously, under the molding hands of history, a generation that knows and lives its own culture. When such people come to contact with others, they respond in a healthy manner and absorb into them what is useful in polishing and strengthening their own cultural traits. In the relatively new nations that have recently come to their political and cultural freedom, the children of a slave generation who in the past had wandered away from their own national traits in their immaturity reach the foreign shores. The glamour of the lights and sounds and the passing fashions in life are cheaply borrowed, and these youngsters return to their native lands not as men who have seen the world and have polished themselves, but as ugly caricatures of foreign types. The Hindu nation in our country is at this moment suffering from this great malady. Its young people go to the foreign shores not to improve what they have, but to borrow shamelessly new tunics of thought and clad in them. When they return to their native towns, they are neither foreigners nor natives. This is making Indians laughing stocks in foreign countries. I have been receiving many letters from my friends inquiring why young boys and girls visiting from India bring with them not the atmosphere of India, but they suddenly get converted into foreign ideologies. Many a foreigner I had met in this country who visited India, often for pleasure and sometimes for profit, and yet without an exception, their anxiety was always to understand our culture and to draw from it whatever is useful for them. They never give up what they have in them as their national traits. It is only in India that we find that our own educated youth have no such firm framework to maintain in their bosom upon which they can walk up and beautify their own essential national character. It is high time that we give training to our own young Indians in their national culture because before they are allowed to leave the shores of their country. The type of boys and girls, businessmen and others who reach other countries without such a training have slowly undermined the world's respect for our nation, which is mainly for the ancient and powerful spiritual culture of the land. Institutions like the Sadhu Samaj and various ashrams in the country can really undertake this work. Upon the platform of the world, the dignity of our nation should not be brought down by the dire ignorance of those who visit foreign lands. Each one reaching there is automatically a messenger of our policy of peace, an ambassador of our culture, an angel of the spirit of Bharat. I would even go to the extent of suggesting that the university graduation certificates may be issued only after students having gone through an exclusive course of 3 months on the philosophy of our country, especially Vedanta, the religion of man. I am sure my voice will be heard, but it will not be accepted because of our ill-defined, mischievously misconstrued, and disgustingly perverted interpretation of the term secularism. Chapter 24, Commitment to the Ideal. Spasmodic outbursts of godly emotions, or some fitful gushings of divine reasoning, cannot by themselves consistently keep up the required warmth of heart for a sustained cultural texture in a man's life. Consistent vision of the ideal is the secret of anyone living an effortless life of true religion. Situations can be created temporarily wherein even the most vulgar can come to feel or think of higher and nobler calls of existence. But alas, how soon they fade away in the day to day temptations. This does not mean that a weak man cannot grow up to become a truly righteous man of vigorous creative efforts. Only chronic patients need longer treatment with effective medicine. Very few of us, in fact, come to forget our goal and our purpose. Almost every intelligent man of average education, since he lives constantly in a civilized society, has enough in himself to provide him with a clear concept of the ideal. In short, everyone has a picture of the ideal way of life in his own understanding, and yet very few actually discover in themselves the required stamina to live up to those ideals at times. Man easily falls victim to the temptations around him in society, and in fact, there are but a rare few exceptions to this rule. It is only that different degrees of temptations are necessary to make different types of people fall helplessly into the wrong channels of living, craving, and indulging. Whenever we find that some great personality in society, such as a political leader, an honest businessman, a loving father, a faithful wife, an affectionate son, a learned pandit, or a renowned professor has acted low and foul, expressing himself as fallen from his expected perfections, we are generally shocked. Nay, we even come to doubt the veracity of the moral values, the practicality of spiritual existence. When we thus find that even mighty intellects, great tapasvins, irreproachable men of erudition and scholarship, fall abjectly into a false line of thinking and behave in the world outside in a spirit of possessiveness and egoism, losing their self control, dignity, polish, and beauty of life. There is, in fact, nothing in it for us, the true seekers, to despair. It only exhibits how difficult it is to keep the cultural ideal always with us and live righteously in life. No amount of study and reflection, ritualistic worship and pilgrimages, service of mankind and charity, japa and dhyana practiced during some fixed hours of the day or on some special days of the week can in themselves bring about a total reformation and permanent change in the texture of our thoughts or in the beauty of our actions. Religion is to become not a mere practice but a faithful and constant atmosphere around our heart and head. In all our contacts with the world outside, in all our experiences, we must keep constantly the clear picture of our goal in our mind's eye. Our contacts with the world outside should be in harmony with the living cadence of the evergreen goal. The philosophical study and understanding gathered through our study and practice are all to be perceived within ourselves to add a new color to our perceptions in life and a new glow to our day to day experiences. In order to achieve such a total inner revolution, a seeker must train himself to live his spiritual values at all times, in all his contacts, while facing all types of experiences. No doubt, it would be easier for us to live our ideal when the environments are conducive, when the circumstances are favorable, when the temptations are nil, and when the field in which we work happens to be totally favorable for us to express our ideal. But the true test of culture is certainly when man is on the hot beds of adversities, of pain, of great losses. He is called a man of culture who can meet calamities with unshaken faith in his own ideal, who in joys and successes can leave his ideals unruffled. Such an indestructible adamantine faith in our ideal can be cultivated only if we are very careful in all our transactions with the world outside. Let us discipline all our physical contacts. Let us regulate our emotional transactions. Let us systematize our intellectual evaluations of things and beings, of circumstances and happenings, the means and the end. Let us discard jealousy from our hearts. Let us be sweet in our words. May we not bring any discordant note by our careless words in the hearts of our listeners. May our actions be useful and rhythmic, dignified and noble. May we have the patience with those who bring us sorrows by their words, discord into our midst by their actions, discontentment by their motives, and so on. It is necessary that each group member must have a personal interest in the welfare of the group, and every group leader must have a consciousness that he or she is responsible for the growth and development of the group and consistent enthusiasm of its members. At the same time, no single group leader shall ever entertain in himself or herself the idea that he or she is the supreme or that the entire mission is built upon him or her. Each group leader is as important as anyone else, each member as sacred as any other member. And even Swami Chinmayananda is but a simple sevak in the mission. There is no chance for power politics in this spiritual institution, the Chinmay mission. I am openly discussing these ideas because the very age is so full of its vicious spirit of power mongering. The editors of our magazines, the presidents of our branches, the leaders of our groups, and the members who attend the Chinmaya mission functions and programs, as well as those who practice religion at home. The secretaries and workers in our different Yajnasalas all over India are all members of one joint family, limbs of one cooperative body, each one offering his best to the total constant daily yajna. By the divine grace, may our concerted actions be for the resurgence of our lost glory and cultural beauty. I am sure none of us will bring in any false note of indiscipline by which this divine harmony of work will ever get disturbed. Over enthusiasm, expressive devotion, exaggerated notions of self importance, vanity of intelligence, self consciousness of efficiency are some of the root causes that bring some of our mighty workers in clash with the others in institutions everywhere. They have no place in our mission organization. The better ones among us have a greater responsibility of maintaining the harmony of the whole. Remember again and again that we are striving for the total cultural upliftment of our community, and as such, it is not individual flashes of efficiency or progress that is important. Coordinated, disciplined activity undertaken in a chorus of devotion to our sacred culture is the prime need of the hour. Chapter 25, Labor, Work and Action. Chapter 25th, Labor, Work and Action. Activity is the expression of life. All living organisms will have to manifest the life in them as long as they are alive. Where activity has stopped totally, decay starts. Inactivity is the sting of death. Activity is the perfume of life. Activity, which is the insignia of life, is manifest everywhere in plants, in animals, and in the human. Even the rocks, geologists say, have growth through, though it is comparatively very slow. In the lower kingdoms of the flora and the fauna, life's expressions are ordered and controlled by mere instincts and primary impulses. They act with no willful intentions or any conscious plan. They just act because they must, for they are alive. It is only in the human kingdom we find that man acts not only by his instincts but also guided by his aspirations and encouraged by his intentions, guided by his will and reasons, ever panting to reach his accepted ideal. The best among the humans always acts. Naturally, the expressions of life through man, whether it be through an individual or a community of individuals, are bound to be conditioned by the education and culture in him, the characteristics of his age, the growth and development of his intellect, and his outer worldly necessities, and his inner emotional demands. With this understanding of the phenomena of work, when we look at the entire mankind and their activities during the known periods of their recorded history, from the caveman age to the modern era, we find that the expressions of life through individuals fall under three distinct types. These subtle distinctions are vividly experienced in the nobility and glory of the results ultimately earned by their undertakings. In the earliest periods of history, among the barbarous cavemen, we no doubt notice a lot of movements and efforts, but such low, uncultured, underdeveloped men have largely only one prime intention: to keep the wolf away from their doors. When one's intention is so self centered, selfish, and limited, his efforts become labor, wherein he tries to earn wages in the form of some gains with which to feed, clothe, and shelter himself. A slightly more evolved society, under the impetus of a nobler intention, works to succeed, wherein the individual's ambition is to bring heaven down upon the earth. These are people who have evolved slightly, and from their better educational viewpoint, they detect some possibility of creating more material wealth, not necessarily always for themselves alone. For themselves, they demand only the joy of success, and they feel themselves fulfilled in their work if their work can bring about a material progress for themselves and to the society of their age at large. Certainly, work that thirsts for success is nobler than simple labor that demands mere wages. But the highest manifestations of diviner impulses of life are seen in highly evolved individuals when they express themselves through action, by which they want to achieve not a mere selfish satisfaction but strive to raise the entire humanity into a higher pedestal of greater morals and subtler ethical values. Herein are actions, the subtlest expressions of life, with which they want to achieve a better civilization and a nobler culture for their generations. If work for success is nobler than labor for wages, action for achievement is the noblest. In all these three types of expressions of life, labor, work, and action, there are always some definite goals which the individual wants to gain: wages, success, and achievement. But the subtle distinction between them is ordered by the ultimate profit expectations entertained by the individual. Labor demands wages with which to keep the wolf away from the doors. Work demands success in bringing heaven down to earth, and action insists on achievement in the field of raising humanity to a greater status of cultural beauty, both by precept and by example. Evidently, therefore, as civilization improves, man gains his release from his selfish preoccupations with himself, labor, expands his vision, first to bring down the ideal work and then in his fuller maturity. All his noblest efforts, actions become a tireless strive to raise the entire community to a more divine goal, which has a purposeful meaning and a meaningful purpose. Even though biological activities in the outer world are natural to living beings, to the extent the individual evolves, the expression of his personality gets chastened from mere selfish labor through a relatively unselfish work at last to the beauty of true action, which is almost selfless, very demanding, but an achievement of a total cultural renaissance. Labor to earn wages and to be above your needs, surely it is noble work for your success in raising the standard of living in the society. True, this is nobler, but the noblest is to act in such a way that you raise the dignity of man and inspire others in the society to live more divine life, thereby achieve the incalculable beauty of life which can be measured only in terms of the harmony in existence, the true progress in society, and the creative peace in the world. To labor and earn is a personal necessity, to work and succeed is a material obligation, but to act and achieve the cultural progress of humanity is the duty of all the educated and evolved members of every era towards humanity itself. Be quiet. Chapter 26. Be quiet. The most strenuous of all endeavors in the world is that which needs the least effort, to be quiet, to be without agitation, to live in silence, and to rest and relax seem to be the most difficult for the modern man to achieve. Hurry and tension sap out his entire energy. Fatigued and tired, man does not have the time to think about or to contemplate on, to plan for or to gain a better way of existence. The hurry and speed wear him down to an early grave. Many people fail to start living until they are half dead. To slow down the muscles is not easy unless we stir up our minds. Even the educated and the successful men of the world are terribly afraid of leisure. The weekend rest is a dreadful agony, and they even try to escape from it by picnics and parties, by visits and shows, by loafing and shopping. To be at leisure is to be with ourselves, and how few of us have the courage to meet ourselves as we are. And yet, without recreating these hours of silence and quiet, moral revival and spiritual unfoldment are impossible. According to Pascal, most of the evils of life arise from man's incapacity and inability to sit still in a room, to relax ourselves for an hour in a quiet corner, and to compose ourselves to the serene silence within is to open one's pores to the dynamic touch of creative life. This is meditation, this is the highest form of prayer too. Such leisurely moments of contemplation are the occasions when the dreadful mask of nature falls off and we peep into the encouraging, kindly beauty of life and its environments. Thoreau asserts, when we are unhurried and wise, we perceive the only great and worthy things have any permanent, we perceive that only great and worthy things have any permanent and absolute existence, that Petty fears and petty pleasures are but the shadows of the reality. One who lives in this utter silence of fullness and joyless bliss is the man of perfection, a god among the mortals. One who lived for some time, for more than 35 years at Uttarkashi, in such a divine silence of fullness and glory, where Shri Gurudev Swami, Shri Swami Tapovan Maharaj. The anniversary of his Mahasamadhi falls on the 16th of January. At least on that day, let us spend some hours in silence and relaxation, sending our minds towards the infinitude, which is the nature of the self. As Sri Gurudev Swami Tapovan Maharaj used to say, let us play hard disease. Pretend that we had an attack and so we are resting. In such moments of complete relaxation, man gets initiated to a vaster purpose of life and to a more enduring strength and power in himself. Either achieve, or if this is not possible, then shamelessly steal a sense of leisure and rest. Even at such moments of peace, forget not to be curious to know the nature of the silence, the condition and behavior of this inward voice in its serene heights is divine beatitude itself. The basis of all science is the pursuit of curiosity. Stress and strain, agitations and desires, likes and dislikes, these create the struggles of existence. Let us call a truce with our strife and stress in existence for at least a single day in the year and rest peacefully contented all with ourselves. The terrible byproduct of haste is selfishness. It brings in its wake egoism, vanity, greed, lust, and a host of other vulgarities into our inner life. All of them are destroyers of our inner peace and joy. For a refreshing change, let us discard them all and rest in ourselves as ourselves on the Tapovan Tithi, January 13. No doubt, to end this selfishness totally is not a day's work. It takes time, but even an attempt at liquidating it, even if it be temporarily, and that too in an artificial make video, can yet work as magic begin. At least on this sacred day, let us go out of our way to do something for somebody else, at least for half an hour, expecting nothing from him. Return home enjoying the sense of fulfillment at having done what is to be done or ought to be done. Let us make January 13 the day of service unto Him. New Year greetings. I wish you all a happy new year. Time flows on irresistibly. Nobody can stop it. In that eternal flow of time, it is man who superimposes divisions and names as day and night, as months and years. To the common folk, 365 such days and nights bring, according to their calendar, a new year. But in fact, to the larger majority, there is no newness about it. Every year is a dragging continuity of the previous year. Every month is a shameless copy of the sorrows and imperfections of the previous month. Every today an echo of a yesterday that has passed. To the unintelligent, thoughtless persons, there is very little of any newness as their days, months, and years roll by. On the high road of life, they constantly miss their buses. The field of time can be cultivated and brought to bear fruit and profit if we sincerely farm our own life. The seeds in the barn cannot produce at the end of a year a rich harvest unless we plough the land, sow the seed, weed it out, water the growth, protect it from dangers, and wait for the ripening. So too the field of time cannot smile forth to provide us with our joys in life unless we cultivate it properly. Plough the time with study, sow the seeds of your own goodness in the ample field of time. Water them with your devotion to the perfect. As the seeds grow, the weeds also shall strike their roots in the same field and raise them their heads. Carefully remove them one by one, uproot the evils from yourself, protect the bosom from the grazing bulls of sensuousness and temptations, of passions and lusts, and wait till the virtues ripen and are ready for the harvest. One who is capable of thus making use of time and steps forward in one's own inward growth and beauty, that one alone can wait for the new year of glorious promises, of fruitful expectations, of assured peace and guaranteed success. Through self effort, strive to create beauty in yourself when the inner equipments of experience are consciously turned up through study, devotion, service, and meditation. The fallow fields of time shall come to smile forth into plenty and joy around such an individual. The mission members are seekers who are consciously striving to gain self improvement and who are deliberately living every hour of their day in the awareness of the higher ideal. In all your attempts at attunement with the perfect, bring all the aspects of your personality, the physical, the mental, and the intellectual. May the coming year bring to all sincere seekers the full reward for their self-controlled life of ennobling thoughts in terms of their own experienced inner peace and outer achievements. Last chapter number 28th. Chapter number 28. 28th chapter, last chapter. Knowledge and wisdom. However fertile they may be, vast stretches of land now abounding with wild weeds are not wealth that is enjoyable at present. Futile flow of waters can constitute a perennial river, watering liberally its two banks, but it cannot act as it is bless the dry stretches that lie parched on both sides of it. Study of scriptures can give us understanding and knowledge, but They are idle and unproductive until they become wisdom in us. The wild jungle land, when cleanly waded out and well plowed, can become prepared fields to receive healthy seeds. A rich harvest can be surely expected from such fields when unintelligently cultivated. The purposeless waters habitually flowing down the river bed, when disciplined and conserved, can give us a water reservoir from which, through a network of canals intelligently cut, we can take the waters to irrigate the distant stretches of the fallow fields on both the sides of the river. The naked earth thereby can be clothed with a rich luxury of various verdure. The knowledge of the scriptures conserved through study, reflection, discussion, and meditation can be really put to profitable use in self evolution only when it is brought down to irrigate the fields of our thoughts and actions. The irrigation canals that can bring this conserved life-giving knowledge to the water fields of our day-to-day activities are prepared through our individual spiritual practices sadhana. Enthusiastic living of the knowledge to bring the light of knowledge into our everyday life of thoughts and actions, to strive to be intensively conscious of our scriptural knowledge and philosophical understanding while our minds and bodies continuously search out to act and to live is the highest sadhana. Even though we have the knowledge, it is rarely applied in our everyday life. While acting in the world, while meeting various problems and situations of life, we totally forget the ideals we have accepted, the principles of existence we have recognized, and the footprints of our great rishis that are so clearly traced by us, so carefully traced by us. When we thus lose sight of the pole star, the ship of our life, like a rudderless boat, becomes a toy for the caprice of every passing breeze to play with. Life thereafter has no purpose, no determined direction, no harbor to call at, and no destination towards which it must be steered. It becomes a plaything in the hands of mad winds until it gets smashed against some hidden rock and wrecks itself. Even when a seeker successfully brings the conserved knowledge in him into the fields of his feeling and action, it does not guarantee for him or the world outside any added joy, peace, or progress. The irrigational canals may bring waters into my land, but the waters themselves cannot promise me a rich harvest if I fail to attain to the cultivation of the land. I can only watch a healthier growth of the weeds in my watered land. Through sadhana, our scriptural knowledge can be brought into worlds of emotion and action. And yet, with all these, we will only make ourselves spectacular Ravanas of the age with our tapasya if our hearts are not tuned up properly. All Rakshasic minds, when bringing their inner dynamism into their unprepared and uncultivated minds, rear up only a luxurious jungle of poisonous weeds infested with hooded serpents, howling jackals, and prowling beasts of endless hunger and cruelty. Cultivation of the mind is to be taken up hand in hand with the bringing of our knowledge in our personal, intimate lives. The paths of action and devotion constitute the methods involved, the techniques applicable, the processes recommended, and the means recognized for an intelligent and efficient husbandry of the mind. The path of knowledge discovers the reservoir of knowledge, prepares the labyrinth of canals to water every corner of one's mental field. An integral sadhana, intelligently assimilating the salient features of all the three paths of work, devotion, and knowledge, would constitute the total scheme of self resurrection, of self rediscovery. Knowledge assimilated is man's understanding. Understanding, when brought into the fields of our life to enrich its contents, becomes wisdom. The acharyas and rishis, the prophets and masters, their scriptures and Bibles, all can help us only to discover the reservoir in ourselves. They may at best supply us with a blueprint of the canal layout, bringing the waters of our own knowledge conserved in our understanding into the planes of our mind and heart is the work of sadhana, and the sadhak himself will have to weed out, plow, sow, water, and watch over the cultivation of his spiritual values in his life. This needs courage, consistency of purpose, heroism, industry, and vigilance. The heroes who have these are the real followers of true religion. Religion is not meant for cowards. Spiritual evolution is a myth and a dream to all those who are unheroic, sleepy, and irresponsible. Be a dynamic, diligent yogi. The author of this book, as I think, is Param Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda ji, hailed as the second Swami Vivekananda, Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda, who lived in between 1916 to 1993, has left a great legacy behind for mankind. On realizing the true purpose of life, he worked tirelessly and with tremendous energy for more than 4 decades to spread the message of Vedanta. A great orator, writer, leader, patriot, and spiritual giant. He is one of the finest representatives of Indian spiritual heritage. The sprawling worldwide organization of Chinmay Mission carries on the torch lit by this great saint. Hari Om.